Hello. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
How are you?
Good. I'm very well. I just thought I'd come in a bit early to see if anyone's here, and there you are. How have you been? You've been well?
Well, yeah, a little busy right now because we're getting ready to go to the Philippines by November. So yeah, lots of things to do. I kind of slow down a bit on the modules,
That's
and
absolutely
it's
fine.
starting to get cold. Starting to get cold here now too.
Yeah, well it's a good time to sort of stop and think about your design and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to getting out and doing things in the garden. So it's maybe a good time to get out and do that. But it's totally fine to work at the pace that's suits you. And everybody, believe me, everybody has kind of had big bursts of energy, then they slow down a bit, then they get another burst of energy. And life is like that, isn't it? you know just
Yeah, I know. Like last night I was contemplating and I said, I need to go back. I need to go back to my module.
yeah. So
Because,
it's
yeah, the
it's
lesson is getting more interesting.
great. I mean, there is so much in there, and some topics might not be as relevant or as interesting to you, but hopefully there's enough in there of all the different topics that you can draw enough from to actually pull together something that you can do your design with, and then start to think about design in other places. I think it's a really good idea to think about like everywhere you go, to be thinking like a designer. If you're going to a friend's place, not to go and tell them what to do, but just to have that kind of design lens on, and or whatever mod you're up to be looking at. I wonder what the soils are like here, and have a bit of a look around. Or I wonder, like put on the curious mind about, what are those plants over there? I wonder what role they're playing. Or wonder if I can take a cutting of that. Or find a way to actually take the thinking with you wherever you go. And every place that you end up is a fantastic opportunity to think as a permaculture designer, and see opportunities where you think that you might actually be able to do some permaculture teaching as well.
Right.
Yeah, because
Yeah, I'm thinking of that. I was talking to a friend, and I think she's president of like a parent teacher um, organization in school, public school, in a hometown where I grew up. And we were kind of talking about they want to build in that school because there's a lot parents that stay there and wait for their children.
yeah,
So
right.
she thought of probably it would be nice to give something to do with these parents, some activities in school
Great.
where they could participate. So they thought of building like an eco tourist spot in school, like
Wow, that's
sunflowers
interesting,
and
isn't it?
all. Yeah,
Is this in Canada or in the Philippines?
in the Philippines.
In the Philippines. Great.
Yeah,
Excellent.
in the Philippines.
And so
So
are you moving there full time, or are you just going there for a bit and then coming back again?
we're going there for 2 months this year. Um, we'll be back by April. That time to
Start again. Yeah.
we'll be back by January.
Mhm.
So I have more time to do things here in Canada. Like I can start my seeds already
Yeah,
indoors,
yeah.
and then
Great.
by spring I can start my project at the back.
Excellent. I can see we have Andy with us too. How are you, Andy? Although you seem to have frozen. He'll be back.
Is that there?
Ah, there you go. Hello. How are you?
Good, good.
That's good. Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling from Perth in
That's
Australia.
right. That's right. Yep. So
Yep.
at the moment we have Ligaya, who's calling in from Canada, Andy from Perth, and
Hi, Ligaya.
Hello, Andy.
And Beth, I'm not sure. Beth, I think there's a couple of Beths, but I think it might be Beth from Sydney. So she may or may not be joining us.
Right.
I know there's quite a few more who said they would come on. I started up a bit early, so it's not even 8 o'clock yet. That's okay. We'll have more people joining us. So lovely to see you both.
Yep.
There's
my little daughter.
hello. How are
Say
you?
hi, Jess.
Hi, Jess. How are you?
Hello.
Hello.
Good, thank
Nice to meet you. How old are you, Jess?
you. I'm 12.
12. Do you like permaculture? Do you know what permaculture is? Yeah. Well,
She comes to my community garden a fair bit,
excellent.
working on a cubby house and a few things.
Oh, well, that's a great idea. I love cubby houses. Yeah, my son just found a cubby house, a new one, down the back near the dam. A tree had fallen over and had made this perfect place. So they're just kind of clearing out underneath and making this brilliant spot. So yeah, whenever I don't know where they are, I head down to the dam and I find them there. But you know what? We've just started a group called Permaculture Youth, and it's getting people
I've seen that, yes.
Yeah, who are your age actually, between the ages of 11 and 17. And so last week we had Lulu. She's from Zanzibar, which is off the coast of Tanzania in Africa. And my two eldest children, who are 11 and 13. Hi there. And then we just also who do we have? We had someone from Sydney, someone from Byron Bay. There's starting to get a few people joining in, and it's a bit far for you, but we've just organised to have a camp here at Crystal Waters for the Permaculture Youth Group on the November 16th and 17th. So that's going to be pretty fun. But we are also having...
We were lucky.
Sorry, you go?
Sorry, Morag. Yeah, we were lucky to live at my sister's place near South Golden Beach, near Byron Bay.
Oh, nice. Lovely.
Jessie went to the Pocket School for a while.
Oh, did you? Great.
How long have you been? A bunch of Permies in there.
Yeah, a lot. Have you? How long have you been over in Perth for?
Been here for close on 5 years now.
Okay, right.
So we came over from the East Coast over to the West Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
we like it.
Yeah. So whereabouts is your community garden? Is that somewhere?
It's near the Canning River. It's not far from the Canning River.
Yep.
Out towards Cannington area.
Nice.
So nice. across from the bridge, further south, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
So out towards Armidale, where you've got Kalamunda Hills and the Perth Hills there.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So
it's quite high density.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's a very high density kind of suburb, but there's still quite a lot of parks and canals and waterways and things. So yeah, we like it here, don't we, Jess?
Nice. And it's lovely that you've got a community garden to go to. And I know there's quite a few. It's been a while since I was over there, but I remember going to the Perth City Farm. Is that still going? And
yes, yeah, that's a big one.
Some really interesting projects around Frio as well, which were pretty fantastic.
Right,
yeah.
There's a very good one also at Subiaco, near the Women's Hospital there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's new since I was there. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, and that's also permaculture orientated. So
fantastic.
Yeah, it's
excellent.
Good. A lot of good things happening.
Welcome, Lauren. How are you? You want to turn your
unmute myself.
Yeah, we've just been introducing. We've just been catching up and saying good day. So Lagai is joining us from Canada, and she's just getting ready to go back. I'm going to summarize for you. She's getting ready to go back to the Philippines, and for 2 months, which is where you're originally from. And yes, yep. And Andy is in. You've just heard from in WA.
Yeah.
And he's got things happening
Hi.
in community gardens. And Lauren, whereabouts in the world are you?
Hello.
Today I'm in Croatia.
Oh, right, okay. You're somewhere different every time I speak to you.
I know, it's becoming a farce. But we're on an island called Brač, which is just off the coast from Split, in Croatia. So it's actually the closest island to Split, once you get on a boat, basically. So we're here for a little while now. I've just come over from Ireland, where I spent about a week with my mum.
Right.
And so now she's back in Brisbane.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah. So
and how long are you staying? How long are you staying in Croatia for?
At this stage, probably around 2 months.
Okay.
Possibly 3. Yeah. So we'll see how we go.
And what sort of things are you getting up to while you're there? Are you seeing any interesting designs of permacultures and things like that?
Well, this is the good thing, is that actually it's been really cool traveling around different places and seeing how people are using their gardens. And I think the really great thing is we just spent a few months in Italy, and but all through like Italy, Croatia, Montenegro, it seems like having your own vegetables growing in your own backyard is almost the norm in a lot of places, which is great. Compared to, I guess, back home where it's not as much the norm. So it's actually been really cool. I'm such a nerd now. I just walk around, like, we'll go hiking. And Andrew's like, look at this amazing view. And I'm like, look at how they've done this structure for growing beans.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm always going around with my camera taking pictures of, little gardens or something, how things are taken. Yeah. But it's fascinating, isn't it? And you learn so much from seeing how people in different places actually find a way to grow food. And, I love going to Southeast Asia, for example, because food is everywhere and every space is used and there's such abundance because of the climate over there. And then coming back home to Australia, quite often you do see what you consider to be food deserts. And so I like to actually go around with that kind of thinking, whether it be a Mediterranean perspective or a Southeast Asian perspective, with that kind of lens on, and see what are the possibilities around our neighborhoods. And it's immense. It's absolutely immense. And I was wondering,
it's awesome.
And asking questions about the different plants and which ones are edible and which ones are not, and why we keep walking past all this fantastic food that's just there in the garden. And the one that I was exploring the other day, now this is a new thing for me. I was just because I was standing there looking at it thinking, gosh, you look lush and lovely, and I hadn't thought about eating it before, and that is sunflower leaves. Have you ever had sunflower leaves for dinner? I hadn't until tonight, and they were lovely. So every single part of a sunflower is edible. And so I'm going to write a post up about it, because everything from the roots you can, and all the way to the little flowers, obviously the big flowers, the leaves, and then also the research that I've been looking at is saying how you can actually make a paper from the fiber in the stalk. And then, obviously you can use the dried stalks as various things, and the seed head base can be used like as a blotting paper or stuff, some kind of absorbent type of. And I thought, gosh, we walk past these plants all the time, and it's good to stop and think, and also to see what other people are doing with stuff. It's just fascinating. I just, I'm a bit of a plant nerd.
Well, I'm going to be the weird neighbor who, like, we're downstairs on the bottom level of this apartment building we're in. The people who live on the bottom level have got this amazing garden going on with all sorts of fruit and veggies. So I'm going to be the weird English speaking person who goes down and tries to use my broken Croatian to make friends with them.
Oh, wonderful. Well, it's always a great way to make friends with people, is through gardens and through plants and through sharing and talking about that kind of stuff. It's a really good way of getting to know your neighbours, isn't it? Yeah. Hi, Stacey. How are you going?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks, Morag. How are you?
Good. Really good.
Hi, everyone.
So I can see that we have a couple of Beths here. I think it might be 2 Beths. or it could be one on 2 different devices. I'm not sure. And Lara was there. She's obviously having a bit of trouble with her connection. And I know that a few other people will come and drop in as well. And a few people too have said that they are unfortunately can't make it tonight, but they're going to listen to the recording. So what I thought we might do after we hear a little bit more from Stacey is I can dive on into some of the things that we were going to talk about, and then we can open it up to a few more questions as well at the end. But what have you been up to, Stacey? What's been going on in your world since we saw you last?
Since I saw you last, I've been to Fiji for a wedding where I did a hand fasting over there for the bride and groom, and they shouted me a trip to a permaculture farm for a visit. So I had a lovely tour of the Tay farm stay in Sigatoka, and I was taken around the farm by a lovely Fijian gentleman called Junior, and I put some photos up on
oh yes, that's what that was from. Okay, yeah. Brilliant.
And there was some I think there was some roadside coconut sellers, and different plants that I observed, and the huge compost heap they made from all the coconut waste, and was just by the side of the road. So everywhere you look, once you get out of the town, it's all green, and a lot of the farms are monoculture, unfortunately, but the permaculture farm that I went to was just right on, like it was on the top of a hill, so you could see all of all the farms below that were adjoining his, and he is starting to talk to them and teach them how to, not be monoculture and the benefits of that, and to embrace it. So he's slowly seeping in to change their culture, because obviously they want to sell their product, and they kind of pre-sell it, I suppose, in a way, rather than be sustainable. And but it's just so beautiful and lush, and just so green. It was beautiful over there.
Yeah, well,
and it was lovely to stand at the top of the mountain and just have basically a 360-degree view of the valley. It was just gorgeous.
Yeah.
So that was lovely. That didn't really leave a lot of time for anything else because of all the planning leading up to it, and now I'm just utterly exhausted, still trying to recover.
Well, I think it's a really valuable thing to go. I mean, it's not like you're behind in the course, because you can't get behind in the course, but you get, you open, like, it's like what we're talking with Lauren. I mean, you open up to seeing things differently when you kind of head off to those places. And thank you so much for sharing the pictures. And, everyone, if you, just keep sharing the pictures, even of your own gardens, wherever you are too, because what might seem ordinary to you is kind of really amazing to other people. Different things about the plants or associations or different interesting designs. Even if you're walking down the street somewhere and you see something interesting, it's really, that would be so great to see, because it's part of seeing the world differently and seeing it through the lens of what the possibilities are for growing. So that's very exciting. Thanks, Stacey. I actually just got an inquiry from a woman in Fiji the other day. She works with community organisations, and she's asking if we could, the Ethos Foundation could sponsor her to partake in this course, because she wants to work with local farmers and local women to help make those sorts of changes that you were talking about. So just trying to see how we can get her on board as well, which would be fantastic. That would be great. Yeah.
Lovely.
So I had a couple of little, I don't know if Beth, can you hear us? Or maybe they're just listening in. Sometimes if the connection's not very stable, it's better just to turn everything off and just listen on in. Now I'm going to see if I can share with you my screen. And okay, so can you still see each other? I can see you all down the side there. Yeah, so there was just a couple of things that I wanted to touch base with, because we're kind of melded together tonight, a bit of a meetup with a bit of a Q&A session, because We've had a masterclass at the start of this month, but we're also going to have one at the end. So I've just kind of squashed things together to see how we go. So none of you are really new to this technology, are you? I was thinking sometimes it's useful to let people know what's going on. Do you all know how to operate the chat and all that kind of thing? Is that familiar with you? Yeah. Okay, great. So if you wanted, because it's always great if there's something that you've come across or some kind of reference or some comment that you want to make about things too, to throw links into the chat. That's always really useful. So one of the, I'm just going to see if I can find the update. Here we go. Here's my update. So we did have our first permaculture youth meeting. That was last weekend. So those of you who came to the last check-in, Lulu from Zanzibar was here. She's a 13-year-old. We were having a great chat about how she would love to meet other young people. And I know my kids, these are my two elder kids here, they've done their permaculture courses and they really want to meet up with other people who kind of have a similar thinking and doing something really practical and positive in the world, because there is a lot of climate anxiety amongst young people, and really looking for something very practical and positive action to do. So we had our first meeting and oh my gosh, they went off. There was only about 6 of them who were chatting away, but far out. I just kind of like stood back and let them go for it. There was so much happening. They've got, they started doing all their designs for their logos. They had t-shirts planned. They've organized a camp. They're organizing a YouTube channel, a podcast, and a whole lot of other stuff that they want to actually get out and to meet up with each other, to do practical projects together and help to ripple out and communicate to other young people. So why I'm telling you all this is because if you have young people who are interested in connecting with other kids who are around sort of the 11, at the moment the group seems to be sort of 11 to 14 age, although I was thinking something like, Beth is requesting remote control of my shared content. I'm not sure she meant to do that.
More, I think.
What's that?
I don't think she can. I saw on the chat she can't hear what you're saying. So maybe she needs to download that that Zoom app.
Right.
There's something you can download onto your computer that helps. That's what I did.
Okay.
Before that, I couldn't hear anything either.
Really? Okay. While I'm just got this, is someone able to send that link, that chat, send that message to her in the chat?
Yeah, I'll see if I can. I think there's IDs that come with it though, so I'll give it a go.
Okay, great. Thank you. Because I seem to have lost control of my I have lost control of my screen. So I think she's somehow managed to grab hold of it. If you're there, can you give me back my mouse? Oh, that's hilarious. Okay. So the other side of things is that one of the things on my list here is that there is an Eco Village conference that's coming up. So it's I'm one of the Global Eco Village Network ambassadors, and in Australia we've now got something called the Eco Village. What is it? Emergence Convergence, they're calling it. So it's eco villages and permaculture blended together in a conference that's happening in Mullaney at the end of November. So end of November, start of December. I can send you the link to that. So if anyone's interested in coming, there's going to be some really interesting talks. It's going to be an opportunity to really get some hands-on permaculture and hands-on eco-village community experience. There'll be people coming from all over Australia and hopefully also from New Zealand and maybe other parts of Southeast Asia as well. So that's coming up very soon. Also,
do you think that's something that will, if you can't get to the conference, do you think there'll be videos or information to find about it somewhere?
I will ask about that.
Cool.
I think it would be a really good idea to, at least for the main presentations and sessions and information, I'll check in about that and find out. I think that would be really worthwhile doing. Yeah.
Cool.
So there's also, I think I mentioned last time, but not everyone was here, so I'll mention it again. There is a permaculture conference every two years. There's a permaculture conference in Australia, and that's happening next year, 2020, April 20th to the 23rd, and it's going to be at Northey Street City Farm in Brisbane. So there's an opportunity now, if any of you are interested in putting a proposal to be a presenter or to work with a group of people to put forward something, that's open now. Or you can also, I think you can still get in and get some early bird tickets if you're wanting to. So that's something that's really worthwhile. I went to the last one in Canberra, and it was so phenomenally fantastic. There was like 300 people from all different types of permaculture programs, some really excellent speakers, and it's just such an inspiring thing to go along to. So if you're from another part of the world too, there are also there's permaculture gatherings in the UK, there's ones in Asia, there's ones in the Americas, and the next international permaculture conference that's happening will be in Argentina in December next year. So end of November to December next year. So that is going to be a really interesting one, because the main focus of it will be children and youth. So they have a different theme each time. So if that's something that you're interested in, maybe you could follow along. Now, that one I know will have a potential streaming option for you to be present at the same time as a external participant. Rather than just getting recordings later, you can actually probably zoom in at the time. So I'll keep you up to date about that. But maybe just plug them into your. Maybe I'll send you some links in the in our Facebook group, so then you can plug them into your calendars. And it's really good to start to map things. I sort of always try and work my year around joining in with those sorts of things, because it's kind of like professional development for permaculture teachers and permaculture designers. They're really, really very good to go to. And just also there's some meetups that are coming up soon. And so the first one being in Brisbane, and I'm just realizing that I didn't write down the date of that. Let me just quickly find out. I think it's going to be on the 23rd of November. So anyone who's in Brisbane, 23rd of November at Northey Street. Oh no, at New Farm. So I'll send a link to that. I'm actually going to be in Sydney in January. So there's a possibility of organising a bit of a hookup there. Are you going to be there in January, Stacey? Sorry, I can't hear you.
When in January?
Early January, I believe.
Yes, well, more than likely, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll and then also later in January, I need to be in Melbourne, so I've got a bit of a road trip ahead of me. So I'm going to try and organise something for that as well. So there's just basically what I'm trying to say is that there are going to be a whole series of meetups, and there is a possibility too that so I can be part of a meetup, and that's wonderful. It's a really good way to get a whole group of people together and start to explore things. But it's also a really good idea to see if you can find other people who are in your local area to start to do things with them too. Maybe a bit hard in Croatia, not sure about that. But, there are people, if you look on the map, has anyone been able to find their way around that map and understand how it works and find other people through that? Has that been at all useful, or has it just been a little bit confusing?
No, I think it's good to see where everybody is in the world.
Yeah. I found a few other people in Perth on that one.
Excellent. Great. Okay, wonderful.
You've got that you've got that band. Are they the Formidable Vegetables or something?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're in Fremantle.
Yeah, Charlie, he's pretty amazing. Apparently he's doing a gig in the next couple of days. It'd be worth getting along to. He's just been putting out some new video clips too. I was going to share his latest one. It just came out today or yesterday. And it'd be really good to share those around. They're great ways to actually kind of have a conversation around something to do with permaculture, because it puts it in such a fantastic way. I mean, he actually started doing his songs because he was trying to work out how to remember all the principles and all the concepts, and he's a musician, so he said, I'm just going to write them into a song. And it's a great way to share permaculture principles with particularly in schools and community organizations. I find them really helpful. Yeah,
they're fun.
Yeah. Hey, I can see someone else there, but your title is Guxi Meki 6XGN.
Is that me?
Yeah, what's your...
That's not my name.
No, I know that's not your name. Would you like to...
I'm Rachel.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the others and just let them know where you're calling in from and
I'm Rachel. I'm Australian, but I live in Amsterdam. Hence that it's daylight here and not where you guys are. That would be my daughter. They're on school holidays at the moment.
Yeah.
So I have 2 kids here in the background. What else can I tell you about myself?
How's your permaculture school garden project going?
That one actually fell by the wayside. So we started a different one, and that's been going really well. So there was already a vegetable garden in place, so we've been able to make that actually functional as opposed to just being wildly overgrown with inedible things. And we came up with a plan, sort of a 12-month plan, and we get the Clota class, which is the equivalent of, I guess, kinder prep kind of age group.
Yep.
And the grade 1 that come in, and they come in once a week with a group of parents. This is Ava Rose.
Hi, Ava.
Say hi. So she's one of the kids that comes out and helps in the garden, and so the kids learn what different plants are. We've had worm towers put in, and we created storage systems to get us through the summer when nobody was at school, and that works pretty well. Everything's still alive. And so now we're petitioning the council to take over the rest of the garden area in the school. So it's a little bit different here, where the council still own the garden.
Why are 2 people moving?
Because they're listening. This is Grace. So you have to petition to get the land back from the council to be responsible for it and plant it up. So we're hoping to build a bit of a food forest play area for the kids to go into, and also create sort of a kitchen garden element and area because there's actually 2 schools in one.
Fantastic.
And 2 very different communities. So we're looking at ways to integrate those 2 communities.
Great.
And food would be a good way to do it.
Absolutely. And so is this what you're using as your kind of design project now? Is that?
No, I'm actually moving to a new house, so I'm using that as my design project. Okay. So I've got, that was what I was using. That's why you haven't received it yet.
Oh, that doesn't matter. Sounds like you've got a lot going on, which is fantastic. That's brilliant.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's nice to start again.
Yeah.
And
well, it sounds like there was a few that made that last one just so hard, and it's nice to be able to feel like you can actually move forward and do something, and you know, that's a lesson in itself, isn't it, that sometimes
really
you just got to let go and find where the energy is you know, just going to be worthwhile. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking sometimes when you put that much energy in.
Yeah, that part was hard to have, because there was a group of parents that were really excited, and then the whole lot got bulldozed within 2 weeks.
Mama.
And it was repaved. So it was a very valuable lesson in making sure that whoever is leading the project actually goes back to the whole community to make sure that it is what everyone wants.
Yeah.
Why?
Because they're also listening.
Lovely to see you. Well, thanks for the update, Lauren. That's great. And I can see Beth is here.
Yes.
Oh, hi, Beth. You
Sorry,
made
I
it.
finally worked out how to use it.
And congratulations to Beth. Beth has finished both the PDC and the Permaculture Teacher Certificate.
Congratulations.
Yes, I know. Very well done. Well done. So, yeah, very proud of you. That's awesome. You did a great job. So how does it feel now to be at the other end of it?
Oh, I can't put it into words. I'm just over the moon. This is something that I've wanted for so long, and yeah, just now that I've completed it, it's just I can't put it into words. Morag, I'm just that happy.
Excellent.
So,
I'm so delighted.
Thank you so much.
And I was just saying before you managed to get on that I'm hoping to come through Sydney in the start of January sometime. So if there's a chance we could do some kind of meetup or something around that time, that would be really great.
Absolutely. I would love that. That would be fantastic.
Right. Let's work on that. That sounds like a great plan.
Oh, yeah.
How far are you and Stacey away from each other?
I don't know, Stacey, how far away are we? We're not that far.
Are you at Warrenora?
Yes.
Yeah, only about 15, 20 minutes maybe.
Oh, that sounds like a plan. Okay, all right. I'll talk with you two separately about that. That sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good.
Right. Thank you.
So I'll just get back to some of the updates that I was talking about. So did any of you also catch up with, let me see, I still don't seem to have control of my screen anymore. Beth, you asked for control of my screen, maybe by
Oh, sorry.
I don't know. I was just wondering whether I could.
I don't know what I was pressing. I just
right.
clicking on all
You
sorts
might
of
be able
things.
to give it back to me.
How do I do that?
I'm quite happy to chat with you, but I can't get off this screen, which is,
Sorry, Greg. Sorry, everyone. What have I done? How do I? Do I have to leave the meeting? Maybe if I leave.
Beth, I think if you go up to the top, if you move your cursor up to the top, it should say View Options.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a drop-down bar there. And I think that's where you might have pressed Request Remote Control.
Oh, okay.
Press that again.
Something's happened.
What have I done now?
You've
You've
asked for it again, but I actually.
You know what I might do? Maybe I'll leave and then come back. Maybe that might work.
Right, maybe I might go back then. I don't know.
Bye, everyone. I hope I do return. Okay.
Thanks, Beth.
Okay.
All right, we'll see what happens. I don't no longer have a mouse to control what's going on here, which is very. Yeah, I can't do anything. All right, never mind. So there was a question that Stacey brought in, and that was about what sort of edible plants are good for minimal heat, which is really, and the question that Stacey was asking that for was because she's also working in a school garden project, and part of that is an area that doesn't have very much light. So does anyone else have a similar experience of having to work with places that is a limited light? Is that something that you have? Yeah. I'd really love for people to share any of your experiences with us. I'll just kind of mention a few different key strategies that I use in low light situations, and feel free to add in any other sort of plants that you find are really useful as well. So I can't see Stacey. I think she's still here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just getting.
All right, lovely. I'm really sorry that I've lost control. I've lost control, which is always a good thing. So in the shady places, typically what I like to use are lots of leafy green type of things, and particularly the sort of the softer leaves, which would be things like your lettuces and your spinaches and your parsleys and your rockets and all of those kind of things. And I find they tend to work far better in low light. Even things like I don't know, so lemon balm, like here, lemon balms and mints, and tarragon actually is one that grows really, really nicely in low light. But anything that's sort of more of your Mediterranean full sun type of plant, or your tomatoes and your anything that needs to fruit, I find doesn't work so well in the minimal light context. So really keeping to that. I mean, you can even use things like kales and mustards and beets and all that kind of stuff. You probably won't get as much abundance of leafy growth, and the colour of the plants would not be quite as intense as if it had a bit more light. If you find things that are bolting too quickly to seed, you know that they're really stressed out by being in that light condition. So maybe you just need to kind of play around a little bit too to see which ones work. But typically, I mean, at the moment, I'm actually growing, I have this little, because it's starting to get hot here in Queensland, those little leafy green things get burnt. So I've grown up some hardier things like mizunas and zucchinis, and then tucked in underneath that is where all my lettuces are. So I have the double bonus of them getting protected from the sun, and also hidden from the chickens as well, which is a bit of a sneaky trick too.
How about gingers?
Yeah, of course. So
I can't get ours to grow.
You can't get them to grow?
No, they kind of come on and then they die. The leaves all dry up and curl and die. I've tried them in wicking beds. I've tried them next to bananas. I've tried, running out of ideas. They're just, it might be the Perth soil. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, my understanding of gingers and turmerics and all that sort of stuff is that they are sort of more from the tropical, humid, wet climate. And so even if you are feeding them with more moisture from the soil, still the kind of the general environment around. So unless you can find a more sort of humid niche somewhere, then I think you probably will struggle a bit. And just
like a little greenhouse or something, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Just it needs to have this sort of the humidity around them. So, I always, if I'm ever getting stuck, because so many plants. What is there? 30,000 different sorts of edible plants in the world. You can't know everything about all of them. I go back to where they originate from, and start to think about, well, okay, what's their native habitat? And is where I'm trying to grow them similar to that or different, and in what way, and how could I possibly mimic their natural habitat? And if I can't, maybe there's something that I could use as an alternative. And sometimes I end up going, well, you know what? I actually just can't grow this thing here as much as I want to. And
my wife wants it, so I don't get a choice. She says you must grow
greenhouse
ginger.
would be the thing then.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so Stacey, does that help answer some of your questions? Does anyone else have any other suggestions for Stacey about plants that they've had success with in minimal light? Any other ideas? Mushrooms, of course, mushrooms. Why not mushrooms? Yeah.
So the area with minimal light is for the 2 to 3 year olds. So it has to be they want something that grows quick to stimulate their imagination. So yeah.
Well, I would
spot that's got quite a lot of light, but they're 0 to 2 year olds. So that actually has to be something that can be grown up high, so they can't get into the soil.
Yeah.
So there's that sort of thing too, because you'd have to maybe put something on a fence, and you wouldn't have the depth.
What's the temperature like?
It's Sydney, so I don't know. Yes,
my suggestions won't work.
What were you going to say, Rachel?
Well, we have a huge amount of success with alpine strawberries and kiwi berries and things like that, because they grow really fast. They get little fruit that the kids can pick. So they're quite fun, but it might be too warm.
But, it's the idea of little berries, strawberries,
Yeah, I've got strawberries growing in the garden here. So
And the alpine strawberries go really wild. Like I planted probably 10 plants and it's just taken over. It's a massive ground cover in my back garden and we get very little light out there. So I've just used it as sort of a forest floor kind of thing.
Lovely.
For our garden design. And they're teeny tiny little berries and some of them are sweet, some of them, they're not as sweet if you don't get as much light, but they're quite fun to harvest and you can make jams and things with them to sweeten them up.
I'm sure I've seen some that you could use around in Sydney. I'm pretty sure there's a variety that would work here too. That'd be great.
Yeah.
And even
and the kiwi berries are hugely popular.
Yeah. Having things in hanging plants with things dangling as well is also a possibility.
Yeah.
Yep. So Andy, yeah.
We recently had had a preschool come to our community garden in Cannington, and those kids always make a beeline for the carrots. So they understand how carrots grow now. The first visit they had no idea, but now that they know, you can pull those things up there, and we've got like purple carrots, orange carrots. I've got a few radishes and parsnips in there just to make it challenging, but yeah, they're a big favourite with the little kids, and they grow relatively. I mean, not really fast growing, I suppose, but if you get them in succession, we've got to the point where we've always got carrots somewhere in the garden that are coming up, and the kids love them.
Yeah, so much fun, isn't it? Just to pull it straight out and just wash it off a bit and just munch away.
Yeah.
I don't know if they like them quite as much, but radishes are so quick, and you can get quite a sizable radish in just a few weeks' time. And, so and because they're so bright in colour as well, that could be a fun thing that they could sort of plant and pull and there's, pop it in a salad or something like that. Or, and sorry?
So we had a lot of success with the kids with radishes, planting them and then pulling them out. And then they would take them into the classroom and do sort of little fermented things with them, which was just a whole other process. But it was a great thing that the kids could then get to do and use it in a way that they might actually eat it.
I like using radishes as that kind of fast growing, success sort of thing that, kids just really enjoy. But it's also a good thing to do, in your own garden. If you plant it out and other things are going to take a bit longer to come up, you just plant all the radishes in amongst it, and so they all come and then they're gone by the time the next things kind of come up. So you're actually infilling the spaces, while you're waiting. So it's kind of a fun thing to do as well. Yeah.
I want to add.
Ligaya? Yeah, go ahead.
I want to add something with the shade plants. If you want to add some colors in the garden as well, begonia is the best for a shady area because it's also edible.
How do you eat begonia? Yeah. I've not heard of that before. Thank you.
The flower of begonia is actually, you can mix it in salads. It's kind of like a sour taste in it. But usually when we were small, we just pick it and just munch it in the garden.
Wow, how nice.
In the Philippines, my mom have lots of begonias before. We also use the leaves when my parents would use it to cook fish, because we sometimes make fish stew in the Philippines. So we put the leaves and flowers underneath, and then it makes it like a sour stew.
Yeah. That's wow. Thank you. Wow, fantastic.
I just discovered begonia last year when we had a visitor who was also from the Philippines. And I thought it was like a weed or something, but she said, "Oh no, that's one of our favourite foods over in the Philippines." There, so
it's rich in vitamin C.
Yeah,
right. Fantastic.
It's got some medicinal value as well, I think.
Mm-hmm. And it thrives very good in shady areas.
That's right. Excellent. I love it. Absolutely love it. Like I said at the start, I'm such a plant nerd. When I find out something new about a plant, I get so excited. So thank you, Ligaya. You know, I think it's absolutely phenomenal how much knowledge. I've probably said this before, but a lot of the knowledge about plants is kept in communities and in older generations handing it down, and you know, sometimes it's hard to find this information in common ways, and it is a lot about the conversations that you have in community gardens, in school gardens, when you go to different places where you actually learn a lot of this. And so just asking the questions and keeping open, and you know, Lauren, going and chatting with the people downstairs where you are now and everywhere you go, and it's such a fantastic way to learn. And yeah, in Fiji, I wonder what new plants and new ways of using food did you learn, Stacey? Was there anything you picked up you went, oh my gosh, I didn't know that before? Did you find anything?
I probably did. I took a few notes, and I was taking a lot of photos, but he was actually, I don't know if in the photo you can see, I can't remember which photo I posted, but you can see his house. So he was sort of in the valley, and he had because both the houses on the property are learning. It's a learning property, have people come and stay from all over. So I think the last lot of visitors they had were from Papua New Guinea. So when I first arrived with my two friends who are not permaculturists, and we'd been in the bus for 3 hours from Nandi to Sigatoka, we get out of the bus and I look over and the people from Papua New Guinea are plucking chickens. And I looked at my friends' faces and they'd just gone all white. And I think I went white as well. So that was a bit of a shock to, you know, I haven't sort of seen food that close, you know, up front and personal like that. So that was a bit of a shock. I don't think I really saw anything that I didn't know about. You know, obviously they have their own sort of root crops that they use a lot of, which I was familiar with because I've been there once before. It was just really interesting to see firsthand how he had cut away, that's probably not the right word, the way he'd cut the mountain out a little bit so that he was capturing water and it wasn't running off. So he was slowing it down and he was building up the vegetation to capture the water as it was coming down the mountain. So that was really interesting to see that in action, and to see how nothing was really cleared. It was everything was just long, and you were sort of walking through a track. You know, not like here in Sydney where I've got, you know, grass that's all cut, and then at the sides I've got all my garden and stuff. It was just, the whole thing was just like walking through bushland, and they don't have poisonous snakes over there. This is a real bonus. But they had, yeah, and us, I think too, the heart of a family. They had this duck that was born quite lame. It actually had like a twisted neck, and it was really sad to look at. But you know, he called the duck's name, and the duck just got up and followed him. And so they actually had a compassion for animals that, you know, weren't perfect. So that was nice to see. And yeah, it was just beautiful and lush. And was always in communication. So a lot of his stuff would blow onto the land, the farmers, and they'd sort of come and talk to him and say, well, you know, what's going on with this? It's sprouting up. And he explains why it's good for them to have these volunteer crops, you know, popping up here and there. So he was always in education mode, and he was so generous with his time. He said, I've got about 20 minutes, because we kind of were ring-ins, you know, and we ended up about an hour and a half, and he was still talking, still would have been talking, except his wife called him. So, and it's generous, as with all other people that I've met, just very generous with their information. When I told him I was from Sydney and I was studying, you know, permaculture, he said, I'm a bit nervous now because you might know more than me. And I said, I don't think so. But it was just lovely how
it's a great thing to do, to go and visit other permaculture places. And that's what different sort of clubs do as well. So I don't know if any of you are members of different permaculture organisations. Well, I know, Andy, you're part of a community garden, but organisations like Permaculture Noosa, they organise every month. They go and visit someone's place. So it just happens to be my place this Saturday, actually. So, and there'll be about 70 people coming into my garden. So I'm not sure I'm particularly ready for 70 people. I thought it might be 30 or 40. But I think once you do get a garden started, to actually open it up to share what you know. And it's not about knowing more than anyone else, really, is it? It's about sharing what you do know and sharing different ways, because everyone applies it differently depending on their context and on their climate and on the sorts of things that they're interested in to have for their life or their family. And we learn from every single person. So I love this idea of being continuously in learning mode and observing. That's sort of part of that key principle, the first principle of permaculture, really, of that, observe and interact, that we're always walking through the landscape with our minds and our hearts open to the possibilities of seeing something new and learning something new, and that every conversation that we have is a possibility for learning as well. And I really love
transferring knowledge. Yeah.
What was that? Sorry, Andy.
Transferring knowledge.
Yeah.
And another. So I've experienced a lot of that since I've started permaculture on your course. People come into the garden and everybody's got something new that they know about a particular plant. And you go, oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. And you give them some knowledge about another plant. It's really good.
Yeah, it's part of the gift economy, I reckon,
Sure.
And it's also being able to as they head out too, to give them a whole lot of cuttings, or to hand them some seeds, or point them to show where they can grab that themselves. I think that's fantastic. Some of you would already be very familiar with the cuttings and the propagation and things like that. But that's the topic that was chosen for the next masterclass. And if I could control my screen, I would show you what the next things are, but never mind. So the next masterclass is going to be all about propagation and how we can make new plants from old, from vegetables to herbs to flowers to fruit trees to native trees. And we'll look at different ways to actually do simple propagation, because it doesn't have to cost us a fortune to be able to set up permaculture systems. Actually, some of the best ways of getting it is by simply understanding how to take simple cuttings from places. And I don't think I ever come home anywhere from a wander or from a visit to someone's place without a pocket full of seeds or a handful of cuttings or something. And that's just the way it works. Every now and then I might treat myself to a grafted fruit tree, because it has particular qualities and a particular rootstock and it will help. But most of the other stuff is always just through that gift economy. And I think it's part of the strength of permaculture networks and community garden networks, and just gardeners in general who really are into plants. And I'm sure in traditional communities that's exactly how it happened. And it's only been more recently when we sort of assume that you need to buy the plants, or that the seeds that we get actually can't be saved. So, actually one of the key things I think we do need to do is to reinvigorate the diversity of our heritage seed stock and create community seed banks and seed libraries all over the place. I have a little video I've got on my editing desk about this beautiful seed library in Wales, in a community in Wales that's part of a transition town movement. And it was simple, and it was just brilliant. I thought, what a fantastic way that it's a library. It's a seed library. So you, like a book, you borrow, like it's the concept that you borrow them. You're not taking them away. You're borrowing the seeds. You're being a steward of them for a while. But when you've planted them and you've harvested them, you actually take some back and you return it back into the seed library. And so that the idea is that we're not being takers of consumers, we're being regenerators. And so we can apply that to everything that we do, even our seed networks, which I think is great. And school gardens and community gardens and neighborhood groups are a fantastic place to get this kind of thing happening. So it's actually just to 5 off 9 o'clock now. 9 o'clock my time. Where is it your time, by the way, just so I know what?
I think it's 10 o'clock here in Sydney.
10 o'clock in Sydney. Thank you for being up so late. Ligaya, what time is it for you there?
It's 6:54 in the morning.
Oh my gosh, you've had a lovely early morning. Thank you for getting up so early. Lauren, where are you? What time is it for you, I mean to say?
Almost 1 p.m. in Croatia.
Oh, that's perfect timing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy, you're a couple of hours behind here, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got 7 o'clock, so I've got to go and cook dinner shortly.
All right. Yes, it's not the best time for a household with kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I can't see if there's anyone else who's part of there. Is Beth still here, or is anyone else still on the call? I can only see the first band of people.
Rachel's there.
Rachel.
It's nearly 1 p.m. here as well. So
okay, perfect. Yeah, great. So I was going to let you know so that the next, before we finish up, the next masterclass will be at the end of this month. So actually 1 week from now, and that will be the propagation one. And then the one after that, at the end of November, will be with Dr. Brian von Hertzen talking about marine permaculture. So we're actually going to do a bit of an interview, and he'll take on and lead that one, which will be fantastic. Did everyone get a chance to see the last masterclass, the one about soils? Yeah. So it's available. I've sent you the link to that if you couldn't get to that one. So that's available. We'll have another, so what is it now? It's October. So November, we'll have 2 more meetups before the end of the year like this. And I always do encourage you to send in questions beforehand, just so that I can kind of make sure we squeeze them in somehow. The other question that's up here from Stacey, just very quickly, what soils to use in the school garden. I'd be really interested to hear how all those of you who are involved in school projects have dealt with this. There was concern, is it about the Legionnaires?
Yeah, so just recently one of our permaculture group has been hospitalised with suspected Legionnaires after using potting mix. And after I spoke to the school, they expressed a desire to have something up and running with the next 8 weeks that the kids could, harvest before Christmas break. And so I said, in that case, we're probably going to have to use some sort of potted soil that I mix with other stuff. But I was just concerned about whether the potting mix, does it still have the same effect once it's out of the bag and in the ground mixed with other things as it might have when it's first opened out of the bag? The spores and...
Well, I think the key thing is really trying to make sure that, when you open it, that you're in a really airy environment and that you dampen it down so that there's not spores that can blow around. I mean, some people, if it is a dusty material and you are enclosed, they do recommend you use a breathing, like a mask of some sort. And also, particularly if you're working with kids, that they have gloves and to wash their hands really well afterwards, and also to store it well. So if it's kind of old and it gets a bit moldy as well, it can be a problem. So making sure that it's good soil, it's organic soil, it's Australian standards, airy, dampen it down. Those are the kind of main things that would be recommended to actually diminish any possibility of having a problem with it. And then once it's actually in the pot and you've got, the compost mixed in with it and it's mulched over the top, there really shouldn't be any issue with it at all. So
that was all they were concerned about, like they're going to do their own, I'm sure there's sort of school rules that they would have to follow. So I just said I would take care of mixing the soil initially.
Yep.
And then once it's planted, you know, we'll get the kids to plant it, and they can, you know, wear gloves and stuff. But ongoing, we would make our, you know, we would do our own compost. So that's what I would be encouraging them to do, because they wanted such a quick result. I thought that might be the way to go, just to get them something growing before Christmas.
Yeah. So if you take those precautions and get some really good quality material, and you know, just do it that way, then I think you should be fine. Has anyone else had any other experience or any other recommendations from your experience with schools or community gardens working with kids?
We do use coir or coconut husk in just for seedlings and things. So it's quite damp. It's quite a damp mix. But yeah, I wouldn't really know about Legionnaires.
Yeah.
It's a bit,
you know, that's actually a really good thing to mix in with the potting mix, or to use as a starting thing as well, because there's nothing in it sterile. It's just coconut fiber. You know, that could be a fun. Yeah, that could be a fun thing to get started with as well.
I might pop something in the Facebook group, because Paul Anderson works with kids, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I might just see if he's got, because I know that the schools have different policies about how they do things, so he might sort of be able to offer some insight as well.
Yeah. What about you? Rachel? That's who I was trying to ask. Are you still there, Rachel? Sorry, I can't see. Have you had any experience with what the schools over there have been asking for? Or it's...
Schools in the Netherlands are really different to schools in Australia. It's very relaxed. They don't have any policies around it. So it's a slightly, culturally, it's been a different experience here, so it's quite relaxed. So what we have done is very similar. We've used coconut coir and a mix of potting mix when we've done potted seedlings up and used vermiculite and things like that. The kids have all got gloves, but generally we're outside in an open, ventilated area, and mostly we just do a lot of chop and drop and use compost and the worm towers to build up the organic matter.
Yeah.
So we've been very relaxed in our approach and not terribly cautious. Listening to you, I've forgotten what it's like to be a bit more cautious.
Yeah, but I think the key thing is what you're talking about, Stacey, is to build that up in the longer term. But for the immediate ones now, just the potting mix and the coir in an airy environment, and you should be absolutely fine. And they, you know, it's an interesting little discussion that comes up all the time, and I understand that, you know, that people can get sick, but sometimes I'm not sure what happened with the person who did get sick, but sometimes it's, you know, if someone does have a susceptibility to being sick, they're more likely to get it, or if it's done, you know, and not in a you know, not in an airy environment, it's hard to tell really. But anyway, that would be what I would recommend. Yeah.
But there's not the same concerns with, say, your compost that you in the black bins. You don't have the same sort of concerns about spores and things like that in.
No, well, it's, you know, it's a different kind of thing. I mean, if it's well composted, I find it really great. If it's not well composted and really anaerobic, it can have sort of, you know, more bacteria sort of stuff in it. So you'd want to really watch as well. Just, I think the key thing for kids, particularly, unless the soil is like really beautiful, just to wear gloves to start with. As much as I don't wear gloves myself, but, you know, depending where you are, that's probably the best recommendation, because you never know whether some people are more susceptible or not. I mean, hardy gardeners who are out in it all the time and have grown up with it will be fine, but if it's the first experience some people have had with it, it might be an issue. So
okay, thank you. Thanks everyone.
All right, well, I'm going to close now because it's after 9. It's been really lovely seeing you all, and I apologize that my screen has locked out on me and you've been looking at this list. Are you looking at a list of questions as well? Is that what you're seeing? Yeah. So I'm really sorry. So anyway, it's been really lovely to have you all here, and so we have people from all around the world, which is great. It's always lovely to get different perspectives on things, and to learn something every night that we get together, whether it be about plants or approaches. Or I was going to share with you some of I might just finish with that, some of the books I'm reading at the moment. I'm rereading this book, which is Forest Garden by Robert Hart. He kind of started the whole forest garden movement, which has inspired the food forests in the permaculture, which is inspired by traditional food forest systems in many parts of the world. But I've been really enjoying rereading Robert Hart's work. A new book that came out, I don't know if I mentioned this last time, Local is Our Future by Helena Norberg Hodge. I worked with her in the Himalayas up in Ladakh in 1992 and 1995, and I absolutely love her work. And this is the new one that's just come out. So Local is Our Future, Steps to an Economics of Happiness. She also has a film called Economics of Happiness, which is really worth seeing too. And then this book, The Divide, it's written by Jason Hickel, who is actually, I think he's an anthropologist who works in the London School of Economics. And he and I co-taught on a course at Schumacher College in England earlier this year called Beyond Development. And it's called A Brief Guide to Global Inequality and Its Solutions. And actually in the last chapter, he's basically kind of saying, and I hadn't read to this point in the book until just the other day, and he's basically saying that social change can be slow, but that said, we might have a way out, and that has to do with the soil. So basically he's gone through all the economic rationale, all the different things, but he's basically saying in order to address climate change, draw down carbon, address poverty, address all the different things that we're facing in society, it's about the soil, which relates to the masterclass, which just came out this week. So new research has come out from the Rodale Institute in Pennsylvania, says that sequestration rates of carbon could be as high as 40%. And if we apply regenerative techniques to the world's pasture land as well, we could capture more than 100% of global emissions. In other words, regenerative farming may be our best shot at actually cooling the planet. And he blends permaculture in that whole world of regenerative farming as well. So some really good reading out there, and a lot of interesting things that are starting to come up about how permaculture and repairing soil and looking differently at our food system is really the crux of making the difference that we need to make in the world right now. So thank you all for being here and being part of the solution.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
So,
Morag.
really enjoying the course, Morag. It's amazing.
Excellent. Great.
Loving it.
Wonderful. So I look forward to seeing you again in our next meetup, and I'll send out our invite soon, and hopefully we can encourage more people to come on as well. Wouldn't it be great to have a whole full window of people from all over the world? So there's
Like the Brady Bunch.
yeah, it'd be great, wouldn't it? But it's one, it's also, I also really like these small groups, because we get different people on each time, and it's a really lovely way to kind of get to know each other, and to have, just, it's kind of like, it would be nice if we just all sitting around the table and had a cup of tea as well, just have a bit of a chat. It's really nice. Without control of my mouse, I'm going to have to ask you all just to log out, because I can't do anything. So have a great day, great evening, a great afternoon, wherever you're calling in from. Thanks for joining in, and I'll catch you next time.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye. I don't know how to get out of here.